I'm Dianne Gubin, co-CEO of CSuite with Beth. And this week we are talking to Tammy Tran, who is the Senior Manager, Local Public Affairs at Southern California Edison. Tammy is active in government relations and community engagement at SoCal Edison. And SoCal Edison is one of the largest electric utilities in the U.S. and a longtime leader in renewable energy and energy efficiency. In addition to her work with SoCal Edison, Tammy was Deputy Chief of Staff for the California State Senate, as well as the campaign manager for Lou Correa, who is currently serving in Congress. For over 5 years, Tammy worked as the Executive Director for the VIET Alliance to Combat Human Trafficking. Welcome, Tammy.
Thank you for having me. I love spending my morning with you, Dianne and Elizabeth.
Oh, thank you.
So, Tammy, give us an overview of your work and the impact it has on the community.
So I feel I've just been blessed. My parents are refugees from Vietnam, and we're celebrating Asian Pacific Heritage Month. And I always think about where I started, and it started with my parents when they left Vietnam after the Vietnam War. And so the impact started there with my parents, having left Vietnam after the war and coming here and giving me and my sisters a new start. You know, we are truly, I believe, living the American dream, having been products of public education. I also got to go to USC, the best university in Southern California.
Go Trojans!
And
fight
yes,
on.
go Trojans, fight on. And I look back on my career, and I turned 40 this year because I paused my aging last year because of the pandemic.
That's great.
Me too.
Yeah, so I didn't have a birthday last year. I'm going to celebrate it for being 40 this year. So, but I look back and I think that I just feel so blessed having had a career both in government, nonprofit, and the corporate sector. And I've never planned for that. I mean, growing up, I wanted to be a teacher. And in many ways, I feel like I am in the role that I am right now at Edison, working in government relations and community engagement, that I am able to share what I've learned throughout my career. So I believe the difference I've been able to make is the connections I've made in not only the workplace, but in the community that I'm a part of. And it's a very diverse community. I know that's a very broad answer to your question, but I feel like, the community is such a big part of my work every day, whether it's a community at Southern California Edison and the different groups and departments that I get to be a part of, or it's the community that we serve. And it's a very diverse community, especially this past year with the pandemic and all the different needs that we've seen across our community, whether it's in education, whether it's in the economy, supporting our local businesses. There's so many opportunities to make a difference outside of your specific job title and the work that you're assigned to.
Oh, that's great.
So what is it you do exactly?
I am currently the Senior Manager of Government Relations for our Orange County region, and I'm a part of a larger organization called Corporate Affairs. And within Corporate Affairs, we serve, the community, whether it's corporate communications, corporate philanthropy, government relations, and serving the most vulnerable and the most needy communities within our service territory. Electricity is a very essential service that all of us need. Our lives are powered by electricity. And so I get to work to make sure that we deliver clean, affordable energy to our communities, but also how do we remain a part of the fabric of the community? And that's through our relationships with our stakeholders, local government officials, our nonprofits, our communities, our schools, and all of our customers, whether it's business or residential.
Now, that sounds amazing. So what do you love about your job, and what do you consider to be challenges?
So I love the fact that I get to lead a team of people that I believe are public servants. Southern California Edison, we are in the private sector. We're a corporation, but it's the closest you can get to being in the public sector. So I spent 12 years in government working for one of the good guys in politics, whether it was in the state senate, the state assembly, or the county government. I really got a chance to work and serve people. And I believe very much so that, government is, best when it's government by the people and for the people. And when I got the opportunity to join Southern California Edison, even though it's a utility, it's also very much driven by the same principles of government, serving our customers, serving our communities. And that's what I love about my job, that, it's a job that's very rewarding in terms of growth and development and being able to lead teams. But it's also every day we're doing something that impacts people's lives, whether it is very basic, is making sure that the lights are on when you plug in your appliances and your equipment, that that it's reliable, but it's also making sure that people have access. And I believe that's the most important part of any role, is the access that you have to decision makers, the access you have to make a difference, the access that you're able to give to other people and give voice. And I believe that's a part of my job that I love the most, is giving voice to my team, giving voice to my communities, especially those that are often not part of our traditional power structures.
That's great.
So interesting. So interesting. And I know you're personally very involved in DE&I, diversity, equity, and inclusion activities at SoCal Edison. I know some of your colleagues, and you're so big in the community too. Like, you're very visible. So talk to us about the DE&I activities, internally and externally.
So DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, is something that I'm very passionate about because I've been a benefit of it, and I believe our country has grown stronger, over many years because of the diversity of this country. America is a place where many people come to. My parents did. They lived in Vietnam during a very difficult time during the war, at a time when they were younger than me now, and I can't imagine the life they had and what would have happened had they not left Vietnam, not have been able to escape by boat. I mean, my parents left Vietnam by boat and was rescued and ended up in a refugee camp in Hong Kong. And luckily, they were sponsored by a small church in Laguna Beach in South Orange County. And the rest is history. My sisters and I are all born in the United States. And I believe that is so important to think about, because diversity is being able to celebrate where people come from, what they bring to this country, and the contributions that they make. And so I believe I'm a product that commitment that this country, that our business, our corporations, our schools, our community have invested in making sure that we're able to celebrate diversity, that we give people opportunities equally and in the most equitable way possible. And that's still a continuous effort that we all have to contribute to in order to make sure that there's equality and equity for all people, and inclusion. I feel very included in most things in my life. Not that I haven't been experienced racism, but I believe that the openness that I've been embraced, not only in my education where I've gone to school, but also in the many different places I've been to. I feel so blessed to have been able to work in government. I mean, can you imagine? My parents left Vietnam by boat with nothing.
Right.
They had nothing. Just the other day, my mom talked about how she didn't even have a pair of shoes
I can't even fathom.
to her name. And that was just 30 something. I mean, that was like 40 years ago that my parents had experienced that, with nothing on their backs, leaving, a country by boat.
Right.
And here I am today, having worked in government, having worked at Southern California Edison. And I feel very blessed to be with you guys too, who are leaders of this country. And that's just amazing, for that to happen. But at the same time, I also am reminded that many people don't have those same opportunities, that there are a lot of people in our communities that are struggling.
It's interesting because everybody always thinks everything happened 100, 200 years ago, and you don't realize it was just 40 years ago. So I'm 57, so it was happening during when I was a teenager, right? And oblivious.
Totally oblivious. Yeah. No, Tammy, your parents are so brave.
It's very heartfelt, for sure.
Yes.
At SoCal Edison, in the executive leadership roles, how are the women involved in diversity, equity, and inclusion? What do they actually do to reflect that in your executives at SoCal Edison?
I think it's key. Diversity, equity, inclusion is not something that we just talk about. It's not something that we just, hold an event and celebrate. It's real policies. It's real opportunities that need to be incorporated into the way businesses treat their employees, how they advance their employees. And I think it starts with our executives. And I'm very fortunate to be a part of a company from where equity and inclusion is a priority from the very top. Our CEO to all our managers, we make it a priority that, diversity is represented within the leadership ranks, but also that our executives are involved in conversations. So, for example, at Southern California Edison, we have these sessions called Space for a Dialogue, where employees are able to talk about issues in a very frank and transparent manner with our executives. We also have business resource groups, which I'm a member of. I'm a member of several, and I used to be the president of our Asian Pacific Islander Employee Resource Group a couple years ago, where executives are sponsors of these groups and have regular interactions and talk about things very frankly in terms of where we're at in terms of diversity numbers and where we need to be, and what are those things that we need to do in order to push greater diversity, greater equity and inclusion. And so executives at Edison are very involved. And I think more and more so we see that with all corporations, that more and more executives are looking at not only, where they're at in terms of their company, but where they need to go next. What are those statements that they need to make? So that way their employees feel safe coming to work, that the employees feel like they're included, that they have a voice and they're represented the highest levels of leadership within the company.
No, I agree. And I think it's important that they publish their metrics.
Yeah.
Some companies are just starting to do that. It's very eye-opening when you look at the hard, cold numbers, right? And so you need to have that to trace your progress. So I'm glad that this is all happening because it's forcing the change, that we have been on a path for change, but it just hasn't been fast enough.
Right. And I'd like to add into that. I've been in executive search and consulting for 25 years. And 20 years ago, working with Fortune 500 companies, there were teams and they would only hire people who looked like them. And if you presented a candidate who was outside of the culture that particular group was, they wouldn't even look at that candidate. So I think it's a ginormous strides that we've made since then.
Right. And the things that you need to do is very simple. Even putting together an interview panel, making sure that the interview panel is diverse, right? It's not just the same three that look alike or do the same things or have the same experience, but they have diversity. And so that way, when you're interviewing candidates, you have diversity of opinions and thoughts and observations. And so I think it's very basic things that I've seen at my company that they've been able to do. And I think that's pretty much a standard now. It's not just, it's a standard across all of our corporations, looking at how we diversify our ranks. But also, it's not about just diversity numbers. It's about making sure that we have the best and the brightest and people who bring different backgrounds and educations and experiences. I think about myself, my parents left Vietnam by boat, and I'm so fortunate to be able to bring that experience and perspective to where I work today and the community organizations I'm a part of.
Yeah, exactly. We'll talk a little bit about Asian America Pacific Islander Heritage Month and some history around that. And then after that, we'll go into what is the value for companies and employees, suppliers, and customers in creating the celebration for Asian American Pacific Month.
Well, we're very lucky here in the United States to be able to celebrate Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month every year in the month of May. Just like when we celebrate Black History Month in February or Hispanic Heritage Month in September, these are opportunities for us to really highlight the accomplishments, the achievements of these respective communities. And I will say within the API community, this Heritage Month started in the 1970s with President Carter at the time, where he designated 1 week in May in 1978 to celebrate API Heritage Month. In 1992, President Bush, now we have a Democrat and a Republican, he designated the entire month of May to celebrate Asian Pacific Heritage Month. And I think that's so appropriate because the API community is very diverse. I'm of Vietnamese heritage and descent, but we have many Asian Pacific Islander communities, whether it's Chinese, Filipino, Korean, Pacific Islander, American Samoan. There's so many, and I'm going to get myself in trouble by trying to list them all. but I would encourage people to take this month to really look at how diverse our Asian Pacific Islander communities are. And that's really what that is. It's taking that time to celebrate, to look at how far we come and how much more we need to do. And corporations are also taking that opportunity to celebrate, right? Looking within in terms of their employees and the contributions their employees have made to the company, but also what they've done in the community. And that's so important, especially during these times.
Yes, no, I totally agree. And has Southern California Edison doing anything in particular to celebrate the month? It'd be interesting to hear.
So every year we have a celebration where we highlight our business and community partnerships. So we have a whole department, supplier diversity, that really focuses on making sure that we hire diverse suppliers, whether it's by ethnic, women, veterans, disabled, LGBTQ. And so it's really a time to celebrate those partnerships. And then we also celebrate our community partnerships. There's so many nonprofits within the API community that are working on issues like social justice, economic development, workforce, job creation, things like that. And it's a time for us to really pause and celebrate the partnerships that we've had together. And that's what we do at Southern California Edison. But we also celebrate all year long, right? The diversity and the inclusion through other different types of celebrations, as well as when we have our own employees that achieve things, we take that time to pause. And I think it's so important during these times when there's so much stress and there's so many challenges that people have, that we take that time to celebrate our achievements.
No, totally agree.
Tammy, you're doing amazing work, awesome work. So let me ask you. I'd like to explore, how do we support even greater, besides these celebrations, minorities and women in the workplace?
I think the way we celebrate is by creating space and making sure that we look around at our tables within our rooms, whether it's virtual or physical, to make sure that there's always new people that we bring along, right? That we open up spaces. And I believe, like, for example, CSuite. I recently just learned more about the organization a couple of weeks ago, literally, and I feel very welcome. And this is a space that I was never a part of. And I really appreciate Beth and Dianne and Carolyn Sins, my colleague, for introducing me to the space. And I've participated in a couple of events and have learned so much from the women that are in the C-suite. And, that's a space that I believe that we still need to do a lot more work, in terms of creating more opportunities for women and for minority and in particular minority women. And I think exactly what you guys are doing through C-suite is so important, that every day, the intentionality of the work that you're doing and bringing people along and opening up doors and creating connections. That's what we need to do. And that's what we need to do on a regular basis, both formally and informal.
Right.
I believe the informal is so important. That's something that for women and minorities, we're not that great at sometimes, right? Really, influencing informally, because a lot of the opportunities or the power, the positions of power, it's not just the formal, it's also the informal that sometimes it's hard to really understand how you influence that.
And you have a lot of influence there. And women tend to achieve a lot, but don't declare it.
Right.
And we have to get over that.
Right.
To help ourselves and our next generation of women come up.
Right. And Beth, before the next question, let's talk briefly about C-suite.
Yes.
We are extremely inclusive. I mean, and thank you for allowing us to weave this in. No woman ever stands alone. We work together. We pull each other up. And that is the entire reason for C-suite. So yes, it's an organization where we purposely look for women at the C-level VPs, directors, women who write checks. You got to bring in money, you got to bring in business, into our companies to support our communities. So we know we're doing our part.
And we love it, and we have so much fun, and we're so happy that you're with us on this journey.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And it's so exciting. It's so exciting. And as a working mom, I have a daughter who's 7 years old, and I'm just so excited for her future. As much challenges, my mom didn't have the same kind of experiences or opportunities I did. I mean, she left her country to come here so that I could have the life that I have today. I'm just so excited thinking about my daughter. She will be third generation Vietnamese American. And because of women like you and women in the C-suite opening up doors, creating space, her future is limitless. And I just think that's so amazing. So I have to thank you for the work that you're doing.
You're welcome.
Yes.
And that's what we want to do,
Yes.
is create that space for women. We don't want to go backwards, so we have to be very careful to watch.
It's just different now. My mother, her father was a doctor, her brother was a doctor. She became a biology teacher. Didn't even think to become a doctor, right?
Yeah. Well, but then as a teacher, she is shaping the minds of the future doctors of our country.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. But she could have been a doctor. Yes.
Go ahead, Dianne.
Anyway,
Why don't you ask another question?
Let me ask you, Tammy, you, with all the work that you've done and how global you are, if money wasn't an object, just this is a fun question, and you could do or be anything, what would that look like for you?
So the way I look at that question is who I would trade places with. And I would definitely be among the billionaires and lead a company like Amazon or Microsoft. And the reason why is I just think they have so much power, right? Not only in driving economies, but also in the difference they can make. And I think about all the little things that happen within our communities, right? At the neighborhood level, at the community level, at individual schools, and be able to make a difference in that way. And so that would probably be in the future. Had you asked me when I was younger, I would have said President of the United States of America. But I just know that's not a really fun job.
No, it's not.
But
I don't know if running Amazon is either.
But the thing I think about running Amazon is you're the CEO, and you have all these resources, all these people that work for you, right? And the impact that you make. And so I think that there's, luckily for us, there are some CEOs that are really good at, amplifying their impact. And then there are some that are not, right?
Right, exactly.
So they need people like us either to work for them or to take their place. So
definitely like with the Gates Foundation and Salesforce and look at Elon Musk, take personality aside, but if you look at what they're accomplishing with new technology and where they're going, it's a huge contribution.
Right. And all those people that you named are all men. So at some point, we're going to have to make sure they're all women.
That's true. Yeah.
Can you imagine if they were all women?
Yes. Yes. We'd have a lot of societal issues solved.
Right. I always think,
nobody
put women in charge and things will be better.
Exactly.
Yes. We're with you.
So I have a question for you that's kind of fun. What is your favorite food that your mom makes that you share with as you celebrate the month?
I have to say it's very simple. It's just rice, steamed rice and 2 or 3 different types of food. Because when we were growing up, that's what we ate. We always had rice at every meal. And then there would either be a soup, a meat dish, and then dessert. And so that's comfort food for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brown rice or white rice?
White,
Diane.
short grain, white rice. Yes,
such a California
sticky
thing.
rice. It has to be sticky. The stickier it is, the better it is. Especially as a kid.
I don't even know if they cultivate brown rice in the rice fields, or is that a new?
I don't know about that. I'm going to get myself in trouble to try to answer that question. But
I know you have to be careful.
I love sticky white rice.
Yeah, I do too.
With mango.
Oh,
right?
yeah. So that's
sticky
sweet rice with coconut and mango.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Definitely.
Well, we want to thank Tammy Tran, Senior Manager, Local Public Affairs at SoCal Edison or Southern California Edison, for being with us today. So thank you very much, Tammy.
Thank you for having me.
You're an amazing journey, and we hope you the very best in your career as we work with you and move forward with you. And we want to thank our sponsors, Google, Converge Technology, which is an IT solutions provider, Manette, which is a nationwide law firm, Woodward Sawyer, who provides employee benefits, and then Amplified Professional Services, executive search and IT consulting firm. And thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. So listen, we love having you here. Hit the subscribe button on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you find your podcasts. We really appreciate that. Do follow us on social media. We're on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. And we love hearing from you. Send us an email. Let us know what you think. It's media@csuite.org. That's CSWEET.org. And do check out our website, www.csuite.org. And that's it for today. Thank you, and bye.